The day they tried to turn me into a servant in my own home was the day I realized that sometimes the people you open your door to are the same ones who'll try to push you out of it. My name is Dorothy, Dorothy Mae Henderson, and I'm 72 years old. I've lived a long life, seen a lot of things, been through more than most people could imagine. But nothing, and I mean nothing, prepared me for what my own daughter-in-law tried to do to me in the house I'd worked my entire life to pay for. This isn't just a story about disrespect or family conflict. This is about what happens when kindness gets mistaken for weakness, when generosity gets seen as an invitation to take over, and when a woman who's spent decades being accommodating finally decides enough is enough. I'm telling you this story today because I want every woman out there, especially those of us who've reached a certain age, to know that it's never too late to stand up for yourself. It's never too late to reclaim what's yours. And it's absolutely never too late to remind people that respect isn't optional. It's required. Before I tell you how this all went down, I want to ask you something. If you're watching this video right now, you're about to hear a story that took me months to be ready to share. These stories don't just appear out of nowhere. They take time, research, and a lot of heart to put together. And they're completely free for you to watch. All I ask is this: if you appreciate real stories about real women who refuse to be pushed around, take just 1 second right now to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. It literally takes less time than it took me to ask. And if you're already feeling this story, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Leave me a comment telling me what you think so far, or just let me know what city or state you're watching from. I love knowing where my listeners are. Your support, those little clicks, they help this channel grow and reach more women who need to hear these stories. You're not just a viewer. You're part of a community of people who believe that our stories matter, no matter how old we are. Thank you for being here. Now let me tell you what happened. I was born in 1954 in a small town called Elmwood, about 40 miles outside of Richmond, Virginia. Elmwood wasn't much to look at. Just a handful of streets, a general store, a Baptist church, and a whole lot of farmland stretching out in every direction. My daddy, Robert Henderson, worked at the lumber mill on the edge of town, and my mama, Florence, took in sewing and laundry to make extra money. We didn't have much, but we had enough. Enough food on the table, enough love in the house, and enough pride to keep our heads up even when times got tough. I was the second of 4 children. My older brother, James, was the golden child. Smart as a whip, good at sports, always making Daddy proud. Then came me, then my younger sister Ruth, and finally the baby, Thomas. Mama used to say I was the responsible one, the one she could count on to keep the younger kids in line while she worked. I learned early how to cook, how to clean, how to manage a household. By the time I was 12, I could make a full Sunday dinner from scratch, iron a week's worth of clothes, and keep Ruth and Thomas from killing each other, all in the same afternoon. Growing up in the 50s and 60s in rural Virginia meant you learned your place early. Girls were expected to be helpful, respectful, and ready to take care of others. We didn't talk back. We didn't make waves. We made do with what we had, and we thanked the Lord for it. I watched my mama work herself to the bone day after day, and I never once heard her complain. That's just how women did things back then. You carried your load, you kept your mouth shut, and you hoped things would get better. When I was 17, I met a man named Gerald Thompson at a church social. He was 21, worked construction, had a steady job, and a good smile. He came from a family over in the next county, decent folks who owned a small farm. Gerald was polite, hardworking, and he paid attention to me in a way that made me feel special. We courted for about 8 months before he asked my daddy for permission to marry me. Daddy said yes, and in June of 1972, I became Mrs. Dorothy Thompson. We moved into a small rental house in Elmwood. Nothing fancy, just 2 bedrooms and a kitchen barely big enough to turn around in. But it was ours, and I was happy. Gerald worked long hours and I kept house, just like Mama had taught me. Within a year, I was pregnant with our first child. Michael Gerald Thompson was born in April of 1973, a healthy 8-pound baby boy with his daddy's dark hair and my green eyes. I'd never felt love like that before, holding that tiny human and knowing he was mine to protect and raise. 2 years later, we had our second son, David, and 3 years after that, our daughter, Patricia. By the time I was 27, I had 3 children under the age of 7, a husband who worked 60 hours a week, and a house that needed constant attention. I was tired all the time, but I was also proud. I was doing what I was supposed to do. I was being a good wife, a good mother, a good woman. Money was always tight. Gerald's construction work was steady, but it didn't pay much. And raising 3 kids on 1 income meant we had to be careful with every penny. I learned to stretch a dollar further than you'd think possible. I bought clothes at yard sales, cut the kids' hair myself, grew vegetables in the backyard, and made meals out of whatever was on sale that week. We didn't go on vacations, we didn't eat out, we didn't buy anything we didn't absolutely need. But we got by. When Michael was about 10, Gerald started talking about buying a house. A real house. One we could own instead of rent. It seemed impossible at first, but Gerald was determined. He started taking extra jobs on the weekends, doing repairs and odd jobs for people around town. I started working part-time at the grocery store, stocking shelves and running the register while the kids were in school. Every extra dollar we made went into a coffee can we kept hidden in the back of the closet. We called it our house fund. It took us 7 years. 7 long years of saving every penny, saying no to things we wanted, going without so we could have something better later. In 1990, when I was 36 years old, we finally had enough for a down payment on a small 3-bedroom house on Maple Street, right here in Elmwood. It wasn't big, and it wasn't new, but it was ours. The day we signed those papers, I cried. Gerald squeezed my hand and said, "We did it, Dot. This is our house now. Nobody can take it from us." Those words would come back to haunt me 30 years later. We raised our kids in that house. Michael graduated high school in 1991 and went straight into the military. David finished in 1993 and got a job at the same lumber mill where my daddy had worked. Patricia, my baby girl, graduated in 1996 and went to community college to study nursing. I was so proud of all of them. We'd given them a stable home, taught them the value of hard work, and sent them out into the world ready to make their own way. Gerald and I settled into a comfortable rhythm. The kids moved out one by one, and suddenly, the house that had felt so small when we first bought it seemed huge with just the 2 of us. Gerald retired from construction in 2008 when his back finally gave out after 40 years of hard labor. We lived on his pension and my Social Security. I'd worked at the grocery store for nearly 30 years by then, before retiring myself. We didn't have a lot, but we had enough. We had our house, paid off in full. We had our health, mostly. We had each other. Then, in 2015, Gerald had a heart attack. He was 71 years old. I found him in the backyard, collapsed next to the tomato plants he'd been tending. I called 911, rode with him in the ambulance, held his hand in the hospital. But he didn't make it. After 43 years of marriage, I was suddenly alone. The grief was overwhelming. The house felt empty without him. Every room held memories. Gerald reading the paper at the kitchen table. Gerald watching baseball in the living room. Gerald's tools still hanging in the garage. For months, I could barely function. My kids checked on me, especially Patricia, but they all had their own lives. Michael was stationed in Georgia with his wife and 2 kids. David had divorced and moved to North Carolina for work. Patricia was the only one still in Virginia, living about 2 hours away in Norfolk with her husband Richard. It was Michael who suggested I might want to consider having someone move in with me. He worried about me being alone in the house at my age. What if I fell? What if I had a medical emergency? What if something happened and nobody was there to help? I told him I was fine, that I'd been taking care of myself for 70 years and wasn't about to stop now. But I could hear the concern in his voice, and I knew it came from love. I managed on my own for about 3 years after Gerald died. I kept the house clean, tended the garden, went to church on Sundays, played bingo on Wednesday nights with some ladies from the senior center. I was lonely, sure, but I was independent. I had my routines, my space, my life arranged just the way I wanted it. Then, in 2018, David called me with news. He'd met someone, a woman named Angela, and they were getting serious. He wanted me to meet her. I was thrilled. David had been alone since his divorce 10 years earlier, and I wanted him to be happy. He brought Angela to visit me that Christmas, and I have to admit, my first impression wasn't great. Angela was 42, 15 years younger than David, who was 45 at the time. She was loud, flashy, wore too much makeup for my taste, and had a way of talking that rubbed me wrong. She called me Mama Dorothy right from the start, which felt presumptuous since we'd just met. But I bit my tongue because David seemed happy, and that's what mattered. She laughed at his jokes, touched his arm affectionately, and seemed genuinely interested in him. I figured maybe I was just being an old woman set in her ways, judging someone for being different from what I was used to. They got married in March of 2019, a small ceremony at the courthouse. I drove up to North Carolina for it, brought a cake I'd made myself, and welcomed Angela into the family, officially. She hugged me tight and said, "I'm so lucky to have such a wonderful mother-in-law. I never had a good relationship with my own mother, so this means everything to me." I should have paid more attention to that comment. I should have asked questions, but I didn't. For the first year or so, everything seemed fine. David and Angela would call every couple of weeks, send cards on my birthday and holidays, visit a few times a year. Angela was always friendly, always complimentary about my house, my cooking, my garden. She'd walk around during visits, admiring the furniture, asking about the history of different things, commenting on how well-maintained everything was. "You've taken such good care of this place, Mama Dorothy," she'd say. "It's absolutely beautiful. You must be so proud." I was proud. I'd spent 30 years making that house a home, keeping it clean and updated, fixing things as they needed fixing. Even after Gerald died, I'd kept up with the maintenance. The roof was solid, the plumbing worked, the paint was fresh. It wasn't a mansion, but it was mine, and it was perfect for me. The first small crack in the facade came in early 2020, right before the pandemic hit. Angela called me one afternoon, her voice sweet as honey. "Mama Dorothy, I wanted to ask you something. You know my mother, Diane? Well, she's been having some health issues lately, and she's really struggling to manage on her own. Her apartment building is raising the rent, and she can barely afford it as it is. I was wondering, Would you be open to her maybe staying with you for a little while? Just temporarily, until she gets back on her feet. I hesitated. I'd met Diane once, briefly, at the wedding. She was a thin, sharp-faced woman in her mid-60s who'd barely said 2 words to me. Angela had mentioned they weren't close, that Diane hadn't been much of a mother growing up. Now, suddenly, Angela wanted her to move in with me. I don't know, Angela, I said carefully. I'm pretty set in my routines here, and I don't really know your mother. It might be awkward. Oh, Mama Dorothy, please, Angela begged. She has nowhere else to go, and your house is so big, with all those empty bedrooms since the kids moved out. She'd be no trouble at all, I promise. She's very quiet, keeps to herself. You'd hardly know she was there. It would just be for a few months, until she can save up some money and find a more affordable place. Something about the request made me uncomfortable, but I couldn't quite put my finger on what. I told Angela I'd think about it and call her back. When I mentioned it to Patricia, she immediately told me it was a bad idea. Mom, you don't know this woman. Why would you let a stranger move into your house? If she needs help, that's Angela and David's responsibility, not yours. But when I called Angela back to decline, she started crying. She said Diane was about to be evicted, that she had health problems and couldn't work, that she'd end up on the street if I didn't help. She said David was working so hard, and they couldn't afford to support Diane financially. But if I could just give her a place to stay, it would mean everything. She said I was her only hope, that she thought of me as her real mother now, the mother she never had growing up. I felt guilty. Here was this woman, calling me her mother, begging for help. For her own elderly mother who was in trouble. What kind of person would I be if I said no? What kind of Christian would turn away someone in need? So I said yes. That decision, made out of guilt and manipulated kindness, would turn out to be the biggest mistake of my life. Diane moved in during the first week of March 2020, right as the world was starting to shut down because of COVID. Angela and David drove her down from North Carolina with all her belongings, which turned out to be a lot more than I'd expected. Boxes and bags and furniture pieces filled up my spare bedroom and spilled into the hallway. I watched from the kitchen window as they unloaded trip after trip from a U-Haul trailer, wondering what I'd gotten myself into. Diane herself was exactly as I remembered. Thin, sharp-featured, with dyed black hair and a perpetual scowl. She didn't thank me for letting her stay. She didn't offer to help unload her own things. She just sat on my front porch smoking cigarettes while Angela and David did all the work. When they finally finished, Angela hugged me tight. Thank you so much, Mama Dorothy. You're an angel. Diane's going to be so comfortable here. I know you two are going to get along great. She pressed a check into my hand. $200. This is from me and David for groceries and utilities and stuff. We'll send more when we can. After they left, Diane and I stood in my living room, sizing each other up. She looked around at my furniture, my decorations, my carefully arranged space, and sniffed. Needs updating, she said. Everything looks so old-fashioned. I felt my jaw tighten, but I forced a smile. Well, this is how I like it. Make yourself at home, but please respect that this is my house, and I have my ways of doing things. She shrugged and disappeared into the bedroom I'd given her, closing the door behind her. The first week was awkward but manageable. Diane kept to herself mostly, spending hours in her room watching TV at full volume. She'd emerge for meals, eat whatever I'd cooked without comment, and then disappear again. She smoked constantly, despite my rule about no smoking in the house. She'd crack her bedroom window and blow smoke out, but the smell still seeped into the hallway. When I asked her to please smoke outside, she rolled her eyes. "It's cold out there," she said. "I'm an old woman. You want me to catch pneumonia?" I let it go. It was just temporary, I told myself. A few months, and she'd be gone. Then the pandemic lockdown started. Suddenly, nobody was going anywhere. Diane's supposed job search couldn't happen because everything was closed. Her supposed apartment hunting was impossible because nobody was showing places. The few months arrangement suddenly had no end date. As the weeks turned into months, Diane became more comfortable. Too comfortable. She started rearranging things in the kitchen to suit herself. She'd move my dishes around, use my good pots and pans and leave them dirty in the sink. Help herself to food I'd bought for myself, without asking. When I'd gently remind her that certain things were mine, she'd snap, "I live here too, don't I? Or am I just a guest in this house?" The way she said guest made it clear she didn't see herself that way at all. I started noticing other things. Small things that individually didn't seem like much, but together painted a disturbing picture. Diane would make comments about my house, about how old everything was, how outdated, how much better it could be with some renovations. She'd suggest I should update the kitchen, refinish the floors, replace the furniture. When I'd say I liked things the way they were, she'd laugh. "Well, you won't be around forever. Might as well modernize it for whoever gets it next." The comment chilled me, though I couldn't quite say why. Angela called every few days, always asking how her mother was doing, never asking how I was doing. She'd thank me profusely for being so generous, so kind, so wonderful. She'd promised that Diane would be out of my hair soon, just as soon as things opened up again. But there was something in her voice, something that made me think she wasn't being entirely truthful. One day, about 4 months into Diane's stay, I overheard her on the phone in her room. My bedroom shared a wall with the spare room, and the walls in my old house were thin. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop, but her voice carried. "No, it's going perfectly," she was saying. "The old lady is so naive, she has no idea. Angela was right, she's a pushover. Just cry a little, tell her you're desperate, and she'll do whatever you want. Yeah, the house is nice, needs work, but the bones are good, and it's paid off, which is the important thing. I know. Just be patient. These things take time." My blood ran cold. I stood on the other side of the wall, barely breathing, straining to hear more. But she lowered her voice and I couldn't make out the rest. That night, I couldn't sleep. I replayed the conversation over and over in my mind. What did she mean? It's going perfectly. What plan was Angela right about? Why did it matter that my house was paid off? I told myself I was being paranoid. Maybe she was talking about something else entirely. Maybe I'd misheard. Maybe my old ears weren't what they used to be. But deep down, I knew what I'd heard, and I knew something wasn't right. The second incident happened about a month later. I'd gone to the grocery store, my weekly trip to stock up on food. When I came home, my arms full of bags, I found Diane in my bedroom. Not just in my bedroom, in my closet, going through my things. "What are you doing?" I demanded, setting the bags down with a thump. She didn't even look guilty. "Looking for that blue sweater Angela said you had. She wanted me to see if it would fit me. Angela doesn't have any right to offer my clothes to anyone," I said, my voice shaking with anger. "And you have no right to be going through my things." She turned to face me, and the look on her face was pure contempt. "It's just a sweater, Dorothy. Don't be so selfish. You have a whole closet full of clothes you never wear." "That's not the point. This is my room. My closet. My house. I didn't give you permission to... Your house. She interrupted, her voice dripping with sarcasm. You keep saying that like it means something. You let me move in here. That makes it my house too now. The audacity of it left me speechless. Before I could respond, she pushed past me and went back to her room, slamming the door. I stood there shaking, tears of frustration and anger welling up in my eyes. I wanted to throw her out right then and there. But how could I? We were in the middle of a pandemic. Where would she go? And what would Angela say? What would David say? I called Patricia that night, told her what had happened. She was furious. Mom, you need to tell her to leave. This is getting out of hand. She's disrespecting you in your own home. But where would she go? I asked. That's not your problem, Patricia said. She's not your responsibility. She's Angela's mother. Let Angela deal with her. But I couldn't bring myself to do it. I'd been raised to be accommodating, to avoid conflict, to help people even when it was hard. The idea of throwing an elderly woman out, even one who was treating me terribly, went against everything I'd been taught. So I said nothing, and things got worse. The third incident was more subtle, but somehow more violating. I'd started keeping my bedroom door locked when I went out, not trusting Diane to stay out of my things. One afternoon, I came back from a doctor's appointment to find her sitting at my kitchen table with a stack of papers spread out in front of her. My papers, documents from my filing cabinet in the spare room where I kept all my important records. She looked up when I walked in, completely unbothered. I was looking for some paperwork Angela asked me to find, and I came across all this. Did you know you have an error on your property deed? The lot number doesn't match the tax records. My heart was pounding. What are you doing with my personal documents? I used to work in real estate, she said casually, ignoring my question. I know these things. You should get this fixed. Could cause problems down the line if you ever want to sell or, transfer ownership. I'm not planning to sell, I said, my voice tight. And I need you to put those papers back exactly where you found them and never touch my personal documents again. She shrugged, gathered up the papers, and handed them to me. Just trying to help. But fine. Keep living in ignorance. I took the papers back to the filing cabinet with shaking hands. Later, when I went through them, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Some of the documents seemed to be out of order, as if she'd been looking for something specific. That night, I called David. I needed to talk to my son, needed him to understand what was happening. David, honey, we need to talk about your mother-in-law, I began. Is something wrong, Mom? Is she causing trouble? I took a deep breath. She's not respecting boundaries. She goes through my things, says inappropriate things about the house, makes me feel uncomfortable in my own home. There was a pause. Then David sighed. Mom, I know Diane can be difficult. She's had a hard life. Angela's told me about her childhood, how she struggled. She doesn't always know how to act right in social situations. This isn't about social situations, David. This is about her going through my personal papers, my closet, treating my house like it's hers. Have you tried talking to her about it? Just sitting down and having a calm conversation. I felt my frustration rising. Yes, I've tried. She doesn't listen. She doesn't care. And frankly, I'm tired of being made to feel like I'm the problem in my own house. Another pause. Look, Mom, I know it's not ideal, but it's temporary. Just bear with it a little longer. As soon as the pandemic situation improves, We'll help her find her own place. I promise." But his promise felt hollow, and I was starting to realize that temporary was never the plan. The fourth warning sign came in the form of Angela herself. She showed up one Saturday afternoon in July without calling first, breezing through my front door like she owned the place. "Mama Dorothy," she sang out, giving me a quick hug. I was in the area and thought I'd stop by to check on my mom. How's she doing? Before I could answer, Diane emerged from her room, and the two of them embraced warmly. Too warmly, like they'd been apart for months instead of in constant phone contact. "Let's sit down and chat," Angela said, leading us into my living room and settling onto my couch like she lived there. "I actually wanted to talk to both of you about something." My stomach tightened. "Here it comes," I thought. "So, I've been thinking," Angela began, looking between Diane and me. "Mom's been here for several months now, and it's working out so well. You two get along great. The house is perfect for both of you. And honestly, Mama Dorothy, I think the company is good for you. You've been alone too long since Gerald passed." "We don't get along great," I said quietly. "And I was managing fine alone." Angela waved her hand dismissively. "Oh, I'm sure there have been little adjustments, but that's normal when people first start living together. The point is, I think this could be a more permanent arrangement. Diane could stay here, help you with things around the house as you get older, keep you company, and in return, she'd have a stable place to live." "I never agreed to permanent," I said, feeling panic rising in my chest. "This was supposed to be temporary." "Well, things change," Angela said, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. "And honestly, at your age, don't you think it would be nice to have someone here? What if you fall? What if you have a medical emergency?" "I have a medical alert system," I said, "and my daughter Patricia checks on me regularly." "Patricia lives 2 hours away," Angela countered. "Diane is right here. It just makes sense." I looked at Diane, who was watching me with a small, satisfied smile. In that moment, I understood. This had been the plan all along. Get Diane into my house, establish her presence, make her seem indispensable, and then gradually push me into accepting her as a permanent fixture. But why? What did they want? The answer to that question came 2 weeks later in the form of a conversation I wasn't supposed to hear. It was a Tuesday evening, around 8 o'clock. I'd gone to bed early with a headache, left my bedroom door cracked open for air circulation. I was drifting in and out of sleep when I heard voices in the living room. Angela had come by again. I'd heard her arrive about an hour earlier. I'd stayed in my room, not wanting to deal with her. Now I could hear them talking. Angela and Diane, their voices low, but carrying in the quiet house. "She's not going to just hand it over," Diane was saying. "The old bat is more stubborn than you thought." "She will eventually," Angela replied. "We just need to be patient. Once she's completely dependent on you being here, once she can't imagine managing without you, that's when we make the suggestion." "What if she refuses?" "She won't. Not if we frame it right. We'll say it's for her own good, for her protection. We'll get her to sign a power of attorney. Maybe even add my name to the deed, just in case something happens. Old people do that kind of thing all the time. They want to make sure their affairs are in order." "And David?" "David trusts me completely. He has no idea about the house. He thinks we're just helping his poor old mother and my poor struggling mom. He's too wrapped up in work to pay attention to the details." My heart was hammering so hard, I thought it might burst out of my chest. I lay perfectly still, barely breathing, listening to them plot to steal my house right out from under me. "How long do you think it'll take?" Diane asked. 6 months, maybe a year. We need her to feel isolated, dependent. That's why I've been discouraging Patricia from visiting too much. I told her last month that you were worried Mom was getting overwhelmed with too many visitors, that it was stressing her out. Did she buy it? Seems like it. She hasn't been by in weeks. They laughed. Actually laughed about manipulating my daughter, about isolating me, about stealing my home. "Once we have control of the house," Angela continued, "we'll suggest she might be more comfortable in a nice assisted living facility, somewhere small and affordable. We'll sell the house, use some of the money to pay for her care, and keep the rest. How much do you think it's worth? In this market, probably $300,000, maybe more. The lot alone is valuable, and it's paid off. No mortgage. It's perfect. $300,000. That's what my home, my sanctuary, my lifetime of work was worth to them. And they were planning to take it all. I felt physically sick. These women, one of whom I'd welcomed into my family, the other I'd allowed into my home out of Christian charity, were scheming to rob me of everything I had. I wanted to burst out of my room, confront them, throw them both out immediately, but something held me back. If I confronted them now, they'd deny it, twist it around, make me seem like I was confused or paranoid. Angela would tell David I was getting senile. They'd use my anger as proof that I needed help managing my affairs. No, I needed to be smarter than that. I needed a plan. I lay in the dark, listening to them continue their conversation, making mental notes of everything they said. They talked about which real estate agent they'd use. They discussed whether they'd renovate before selling or sell as is. They debated the best time to approach me about the power of attorney. Maybe around the holidays, when I'd be feeling sentimental and vulnerable. Finally, around 10 o'clock, Angela left. I heard Diane lock the front door and go to her room. I waited another hour, making sure she was asleep, before I got up and went to the kitchen. My hands were shaking as I poured myself a glass of water. My house. They wanted to take my house. The house Gerald and I had saved for 7 years to buy. The house where I'd raised my children. The house I'd promised Gerald nobody could take from us. But they were trying. And if I didn't do something, they might actually succeed. I thought about calling Patricia right then, telling her everything. But it was past midnight and I needed time to think. I needed to figure out not just how to stop them, but how to do it in a way that wouldn't tear my family apart. Because that's what this would do. David would have to choose between his wife and his mother. And I wasn't sure which way he'd choose. I sat at my kitchen table until dawn, thinking, planning, trying to figure a way out of this nightmare. And that's when I realized something that made my blood run cold. I'd been so focused on the emotional betrayal, on the shock of discovering their plan, that I hadn't thought about the practical implications. Diane had been going through my papers. She'd been in my filing cabinet, looking at my property deed, my tax records, my personal documents. What if she'd already taken something? What if they'd already set this plan in motion? As soon as it was a reasonable hour, I went to my filing cabinet and went through every single document. My hands trembled as I pulled out folders, checked contents, looked for anything missing or out of place. Everything seemed to be there. The original deed to the house, registered in my name and Gerald's name. The death certificate that proved Gerald was deceased. My will, which left everything equally to my 3 children. My power of attorney, which I'd assigned to Patricia years ago in case something ever happened to me. But something was bothering me. One of the folders, the one with my property deed, seemed thinner than it should be. I pulled out the document and examined it carefully. It looked right. My name, Gerald's name, the property address, the date of purchase, 1990. All correct. But there was something about the paper itself. It looked newer than it should. The document was over 30 years old, but this paper looked almost fresh. My hands went cold. Had they made a copy? Were they planning to forge something? I needed help. Professional help. But who could I trust? The answer came to me. Martha Yates. Martha had been my neighbor for 25 years. She was a retired paralegal who'd worked in real estate law for 40 years. If anyone could tell me what I should be watching out for, it was Martha. I waited until I saw Diane's car leave. She'd started taking my car without asking. Another violation I'd been too tired to fight about. As soon as she was gone, I walked next door and knocked on Martha's door. Martha took one look at my face and ushered me inside. Dorothy, what's wrong? You look terrible. I told her everything, the whole story, from Diane moving into the conversation I'd overheard the night before. Martha's expression grew darker with every detail. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "Dorothy, this is serious. This is elder abuse. They're financially exploiting you, or trying to. You need to protect yourself immediately." "How?" I asked, feeling helpless. "First, we need to secure your documents, make copies of everything, store them somewhere they can't access. Second, we need to make sure your will and power of attorney are ironclad and stored with your lawyer, not in your house. Third, you need to document everything. Keep a journal of every conversation, every incident, every threat. If this goes to court, you'll need evidence." Court? The word made me feel ill. "It might come to that," Martha said gently, "especially if they've already forged documents or tried to manipulate official records. But let's take this one step at a time. The most important thing right now is protecting your assets and getting them out of your house." We spent the next 2 hours going through my documents, making copies of everything important. Martha let me store the originals in her safe. She also called a lawyer friend of hers, explained the situation, and set up an appointment for me for the following week. "In the meantime," Martha said, "be very careful. Don't let them know you're onto them. Act normal. And whatever you do, don't sign anything they ask you to sign, no matter how innocent it seems." I went home, feeling slightly better. At least I had a plan now. At least I was doing something. But the hardest part was still ahead. I had to live in my house with these women, pretending I didn't know what they were planning, waiting for the right moment to strike back. Over the next few weeks, I watched them carefully. I noticed things I'd missed before. The way Angela would steer conversations toward my health, asking leading questions about my memory, my ability to manage daily tasks. The way Diane would deliberately create problems, leaving the stove on, hiding my car keys, moving my medications, and then discover them and express concern about my forgetfulness. They were building a case, trying to make it seem like I was declining, that I couldn't take care of myself, that I needed someone to manage my affairs. But I was documenting everything, every incident with dates and times, written in a notebook I kept at Martha's house. Every conversation, recorded on a small digital recorder I'd bought and kept in my pocket. I was building my own case. The confrontation I'd been dreading came in mid-September, almost exactly 6 months after Diane had moved in. Angela showed up on a Saturday afternoon with David in tow. I hadn't seen my son in months, and my heart ached at the sight of him. But I could tell from his uncomfortable expression that this wasn't a social visit. We all sat in the living room. Me, David, Angela, and Diane. Angela was holding a folder full of papers. My stomach sank. "Mama Dorothy," Angela began, her voice syrupy sweet. "We wanted to talk to you about something important. We've all been so worried about you." "Worried?" I repeated. "About what?" David cleared his throat. "Mom, Angela's been telling me about some concerning things. She says you've been forgetting things, getting confused, having trouble managing the house." I looked at my son in disbelief. "David, that's not true. I'm managing just fine." "Are you, though?" Angela interjected. "Diane's told me about the incidents. Leaving the stove on, losing your keys, forgetting to take your medications." "That's because she keeps moving my things," I said, my voice rising. "She's been sabotaging me to make me look incompetent." Angela and Diane exchanged a look. "Mom," David said gently, "that sounds a little paranoid." The word hit me like a slap. They'd planned this perfectly. Now anything I said in my own defense would sound like the ramblings of a confused old woman. Angela pulled some papers out of her folder. "We've consulted with an elder care attorney, and they've recommended that, at your age, it would be wise to have someone you trust holding power of attorney, just in case something happens." She slid the papers across the coffee table toward me. I didn't even need to look at them to know what they were. "Patricia already has my power of attorney," I said firmly. "Yes, but Patricia lives so far away," Angela said. "What if there's an emergency and she can't get here in time? It would be better to have someone local. Diane's right here. It just makes sense." "No," I said. Angela's smile faltered slightly. "I'm sorry." "No," I repeated, stronger this time. "I'm not signing anything, and I think it's time for both of you to leave. If you're still watching, I need you to do me a favor right now. Hit that like button if you think what they tried to do was wrong. Drop a comment telling me what you would do in this situation. And please, share this video with someone who needs to hear it. These stories matter. Your support helps me keep telling them." David looked uncomfortable. "Mom, we're just trying to help." "Are you?" I asked, looking directly at Angela. "Or are you trying to steal my house?" The room went completely silent. Angela's face went pale, then red. "What are you talking about?" "I heard you," I said quietly. "That night, 2 weeks ago, I heard you and Diane discussing your plan. How you were going to get me to sign over power of attorney, add your name to the deed, and then put me in a home and sell my house. $300,000. Wasn't that the estimate?" David turned to Angela, confusion and shock on his face. "What is she talking about?" "She's confused, honey," Angela said quickly. "She probably had a dream or—" "I have recordings," I said. It was a bluff. The recordings I had were from different conversations, not that specific night. But I needed to see their reactions. Diane's face went white. Angela's eyes widened. And in that moment, I knew I had them. "Recordings," David repeated, looking between his wife and his mother. "Your wife and her mother have been planning to steal my house since the day Diane moved in," I said, my voice steady despite my shaking hands. This was never about helping Diane get back on her feet. It was a con from the start, and you were too trusting to see it. David stood up, his face dark. "Angela, is this true?" "Of course not," Angela protested. "She's making this up. She's paranoid, delusional." "I want to hear these recordings," David said. "They're somewhere safe," I lied. "Along with copies of all my documents, my property deed, everything. I've also consulted with a lawyer. So here's what's going to happen. Diane is going to move out of my house today, right now. And you two are going to leave and never ask me to sign anything ever again." "You can't just throw my mother out," Angela shrieked, her sweet persona completely gone now. "Where is she supposed to go?" "That's your problem," I said. "You brought her here under false pretenses. You deal with her." "Mom," David said, his voice strained. "Can we just talk about this calmly?" "There's nothing to talk about," I said. "Either Diane leaves voluntarily, or I call the police and have her removed for trespassing. Your choice." For a long moment, nobody moved. Then Diane stood up. "Fine, I'll go pack my things." "I'll watch," I said, "to make sure you only take what's yours." The next hour was tense and silent as Diane packed her belongings under my watchful eye. Angela and David stood in the hallway, arguing in harsh whispers. I could hear fragments. "How could you? It's not like that. Did you really think I wouldn't find out?" When Diane was finally packed, they loaded everything into Angela's car. I stood on my front porch, watching, making sure they actually left. Before they pulled away, David came back to the porch. He looked devastated. "Mom, I'm so sorry," he said. "I had no idea. I swear I didn't know anything about this." "I believe you," I said. And I did. David wasn't a schemer. He'd been used, just like I had. "I don't know what's going to happen with Angela and me," he said. "But I need you to know. I would never, ever try to take your house. This is your home. It's always been your home." I hugged my son, probably the first real hug we'd shared in years. "I know, baby. I know." They drove away, and I went back into my house. My empty, quiet, peaceful house. I locked the door behind me and stood in my living room, looking around at my furniture, my decorations, my life. Everything right where it belonged. And then I cried. Not from sadness, but from relief. I'd won. I'd protected what was mine. But the victory felt hollow, because I knew the damage this had done to my family. The aftermath of that confrontation rippled through my family, like a stone thrown into a still pond. David called me 3 days later to tell me he'd filed for divorce. The recordings I'd mentioned, even though that specific conversation wasn't actually recorded, had been enough to make him question everything about his marriage. He started asking questions, digging into their finances, and discovered that Angela had been hiding money, opening credit cards in his name, and making plans he knew nothing about. The house scheme had been just one part of a larger pattern of manipulation and financial abuse. David was devastated, but he was also angry. The woman he'd trusted, the woman he'd married, had been using him all along. Patricia drove up the day after Diane left, bringing flowers and groceries and her fierce, protective energy. "Mom, why didn't you call me sooner?" she demanded. "I would have driven up here and kicked them both out myself." "I know, honey," I said, "but I needed to handle it myself. I needed to prove I could." "You did more than that," Patricia said. "You were a badass." That made me laugh, which I needed. My daughter stayed for a week, helping me change the locks on all the doors, installing a security camera system, and making sure I felt safe in my own home again. We went through every room together, checking for anything Diane might have taken or hidden. We found a few things. Some of my good silverware was missing, along with a jewelry box that had belonged to Gerald's mother. Small things, but it still felt like a violation. Patricia contacted the police about the theft, but they said without proof that Diane had taken the items, there wasn't much they could do. I didn't push it. I just wanted them gone from my life. Michael called from Georgia when he heard what had happened. He was furious, wanted to drive down and have a talk with Angela and Diane. I talked him out of it. The situation was over, I told him. Let it rest. But it wasn't really over. Not for a while. Angela tried calling me a few times in the weeks after Diane left. I didn't answer. She sent text messages, apologizing, saying I'd misunderstood, that she'd only been trying to help, that I'd ruined her marriage over a misunderstanding. I blocked her number. Diane disappeared. I never found out where she went, and I didn't care. Angela, in a moment of anger during the divorce proceedings, apparently told David that Diane had moved to Florida with a new boyfriend. Apparently, this wasn't her first time pulling this kind of scam. She'd done it before, targeting elderly people, worming her way into their homes and their finances. Angela had known this about her mother and had decided to use her mother's skills for their shared benefit. That revelation made the whole thing even more disgusting. This hadn't been a desperate woman trying to help her struggling mother. This had been two con artists working together to rob an old woman who'd shown them kindness. The legal process took months. I worked with the lawyer Martha had recommended, a sharp woman named Catherine Brennan, who specialized in elder law. She helped me put additional protections in place, a revocable living trust, updated beneficiary designations, and clear documentation of my mental competency. She also helped me file a restraining order against both Angela and Diane, prohibiting them from contacting me or coming within 500 feet of my property. The restraining order hearing was the last time I saw Angela in person. She showed up without a lawyer, representing herself, and tried to play the victim. She told the judge I was a bitter old woman who'd misunderstood a loving daughter-in-law's attempts to help. She said I was suffering from dementia and needed psychiatric evaluation. But I came prepared. I had my recordings of other conversations where they'd discussed the house. I had my documentation of every incident. I had testimony from Martha, from Patricia, and from my own doctor confirming that I was of sound mind. I had bank records showing that Diane had never contributed a penny to household expenses during her 6-month stay, despite Angela's claims that she'd been paying rent. The judge granted the restraining order without hesitation. As Angela left the courtroom, she turned to glare at me with such pure hatred that it actually made me recoil. That was the real woman, I realized. The sweet, affectionate Mama Dorothy had never existed. It had all been an act. David's divorce was finalized 4 months later, in January of 2021. He lost a lot in that divorce: money, time, trust. But he told me he felt free. He'd been living with a stranger, he said, someone he'd never really known at all. We rebuilt our relationship slowly. He started calling every Sunday just to check in, chat about nothing important. He visited a few times, bringing groceries or fixing things around the house. We didn't talk much about Angela or what had happened. We just moved forward. As winter turned to spring and then to summer, I slowly reclaimed my life. I got back into my routines, my garden, my church activities. I joined a book club at the senior center, started volunteering at the food bank 1 day a week. I reconnected with friends I'd isolated from during Diane's stay. But I'd changed. I was more cautious now, more aware of manipulation tactics, less trusting of people's motives. Part of me hated that. Hated that those women had made me cynical and suspicious. But another part of me recognized that maybe I'd been too trusting before. too willing to sacrifice my own comfort to avoid conflict. I thought a lot about how I'd been raised, about the lessons my mama had taught me about being accommodating and helpful, and putting others first. Those weren't bad lessons. Kindness isn't weakness. Generosity isn't foolishness. But somewhere along the way, I'd learned that you can be kind without being a doormat. You can be generous without being taken advantage of. And you can put others first sometimes, but not at the expense of your own safety and security. One afternoon in late July, almost a year after Diane had moved out, I was working in my garden when I heard a car pull up. I looked up to see a woman I didn't recognize getting out of a sedan, carrying a folder. My guard went up immediately. "Can I help you?" I called out. "Mrs. Thompson, my name is Detective Sarah Morrison with the Richmond Police Department. I was hoping I could ask you a few questions about Diane Richardson and Angela Thompson." My heart sank. What now? I invited her inside, offered her iced tea, and listened as she explained that they were investigating Angela and Diane for elder fraud. Apparently, I wasn't their only victim, or attempted victim. 2 other elderly women in Virginia had come forward with similar stories. One had actually lost her home before her children discovered what was happening and intervened. Another had signed over power of attorney and had her bank accounts drained before she realized what was happening. Your case is unique because you stopped them before they succeeded, Detective Morrison said. And you have evidence, recordings, documentation. We'd like to use that in our prosecution. I felt a complex mix of emotions. Part of me wanted to help, wanted to make sure these women couldn't do this to anyone else. But part of me just wanted it to be over, wanted to move on with my life and forget the whole nightmare. In the end, I agreed to cooperate. I gave Detective Morrison copies of my recordings, my documentation, my timeline of events. I agreed to testify if the case went to trial. But it never did. Angela took a plea deal, 3 years probation, restitution to the victims whose money she'd stolen, and a prohibition from working with elderly people in any capacity. Diane, who had outstanding warrants in 2 other states for similar scams, was arrested and eventually sentenced to 2 years in prison. I felt satisfied with that outcome. Not happy. The whole situation had caused too much pain for happiness, but satisfied that justice had been served. David struggled with the whole thing. He felt guilty for bringing Angela into the family, for not seeing through her, for not protecting me. I told him over and over that it wasn't his fault, that she'd fooled him just as thoroughly as she'd tried to fool me. But I could see the weight of it on him. He eventually started dating again, cautiously. And about a year ago, he introduced me to a nice woman named Rebecca. She's a teacher, divorced with 2 grown kids of her own. And she seems genuine. More importantly, David seems happy with her in a way he never seemed happy with Angela. Rebecca has been to visit me twice now, and both times she's been respectful, kind, and appropriate. She doesn't call me Mama, anything. She just calls me Dorothy, which I appreciate. My life now, at 72, is quiet and full. I still live in my house on Maple Street, still tend my garden, still go to church on Sundays. But I'm different than I was before all this happened. I'm stronger, more confident, more willing to speak up when something doesn't feel right. I think about that conversation I overheard sometimes. Angela and Diane plotting to take my house. And I think about how close they came to succeeding. If I hadn't woken up when I did, if I hadn't heard them, if I hadn't had Martha to help me, if I hadn't had the courage to confront them, they might have actually done it. I might have ended up in some cheap nursing home while they sold my house and split the money. The thought still makes me angry, but it also makes me proud. because I didn't let that happen. I fought back. I protected what was mine. Looking back now, I can see all the red flags I missed or ignored in the beginning. The way Angela was always so interested in the house, always commenting on its value, always asking questions about the deed and the mortgage. The way Diane immediately started acting like she owned the place, making changes, going through my things, testing boundaries. The way they isolated me from Patricia, discouraged visits, made me feel like I was the problem when I raised concerns. These were classic manipulation tactics, and I fell for them because I'd been taught my whole life to be accommodating, to avoid conflict, to give people the benefit of the doubt. They saw a nice old lady living alone in a valuable house and thought I'd be an easy mark. They were wrong. I learned some important lessons through this whole ordeal. I learned that being kind doesn't mean being a doormat. I learned that your home is your sanctuary, and you have every right to protect it. I learned that family isn't always blood. Sometimes the people who should be looking out for you are the ones you need to look out for. And I learned that it's never too late to stand up for yourself, no matter how old you are or how helpless people think you might be. I also learned the importance of having people you can trust in your corner. Martha was instrumental in helping me protect my assets. Patricia was my fierce defender. David, once he knew the truth, supported me completely. Catherine, my lawyer, gave me the tools and knowledge I needed to fight back legally. I couldn't have done it alone. And that's something I want other women to hear, especially women my age. If you're in a situation where someone is trying to manipulate you, take advantage of you, or steal from you, you don't have to handle it alone. Reach out. Find people you trust. Get professional help. Document everything. Don't be embarrassed or ashamed. These scammers are professionals. They're good at what they do. It's not your fault if you fall for their tricks. But it is your responsibility to protect yourself once you realize what's happening. I think about the other women Detective Morrison mentioned, the ones who weren't as lucky as I was. The woman who lost her house, the woman whose bank accounts were drained. How many more are out there who never reported it, who were too embarrassed or defeated to fight back? That's why I'm sharing this story. Because I want every woman out there to know that you have power, even when you feel powerless. You have rights, even when people try to take them away. And you have worth, no matter what anyone tells you. My house on Maple Street represents more than just a building to me. It represents every sacrifice Gerald and I made to build a life together. Every hour he worked at that construction site, every shift I pulled at the grocery store, every penny we saved in that coffee can. It represents the home where I raised my children, where I cried over scraped knees and celebrated graduations. It represents my independence, my security, my legacy. Nobody had the right to try to take that from me, and I'm proud that I didn't let them. These days, I'm more careful about who I let into my life. I don't automatically assume everyone has good intentions. I ask questions. I verify things. I trust my instincts when something feels off. Some people might call that being jaded or cynical. I call it being smart. But I haven't let what happened make me bitter. I still help people when I can. I still volunteer at the food bank. Still bring meals to sick friends. Still donate to causes I believe in. I just do it with my eyes open now. Last month, a woman from my church asked if her nephew could stay with me for a few weeks while he looked for an apartment in the area. My immediate reaction was panic, flashbacks to Diane moving in with her supposed temporary arrangement. But then I took a breath, asked some questions, talked to people who knew the nephew, met with him myself. He turned out to be a genuinely nice young man in a tight spot. I let him stay in my spare room for 3 weeks. He paid rent, helped with yard work, and moved out the day he said he would with a thank you card and a bouquet of flowers. Not everyone is trying to scam you, but some people are. The trick is learning to tell the difference. I've also become something of an advocate for elder rights in my community. I speak at the senior center sometimes, sharing my story, warning people about the warning signs of financial exploitation. I've helped 2 other women who were in situations similar to mine, connected them with resources, encouraged them to stand up for themselves. There's power in sharing our stories, power in refusing to be ashamed, power in saying, "This happened to me, but I survived, and you can too." If you've made it this far in my story, I want to thank you for listening. I know it's been long, but I wanted you to understand the whole thing, from beginning to end. I wanted you to see how these scams work, how they start small and build gradually, how they prey on our good nature and our desire to help. But I also want you to see that you can fight back, you can win, you can reclaim what's yours. Here's what I want you to take away from my story. First, trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Don't let people gaslight you into thinking you're paranoid or confused. Your feelings are valid. Second, document everything. Keep records, take notes, save messages. If things go bad, you'll need evidence. Third, protect your assets. Make sure your important documents are secure, your will is up to date, and your power of attorney is assigned to someone you absolutely trust. Fourth, don't be afraid to ask for help. Talk to lawyers, talk to the police, talk to trusted friends and family. You don't have to face this alone. Fifth, and maybe most importantly, never forget that it's your house, your rules. You don't owe anyone access to your home or your life. You have the right to say no. You have the right to set boundaries. You have the right to protect what's yours. I'm 72 years old, and I'm still here in my house on Maple Street. I still work in my garden, still make Sunday dinner, still live my life on my own terms. Angela and Diane tried to take that from me, but they failed. Because I was stronger than they thought I was. Because I had people who loved me. And because I refused to be a victim. It's never too late to stand up for yourself. It's never too late to fight back. It's never too late to reclaim your power and your dignity. I spent so many years being the accommodating one, the peacekeeper, the woman who put everyone else's needs before her own. And there's value in that, in being kind and generous and helpful. But there's also value in knowing when to draw the line, in recognizing when kindness is being exploited, in having the courage to say, enough. My mama raised me to be sweet and obedient, but she also raised me to be strong. She worked herself to the bone to provide for her family. She faced hardship and poverty and still held her head high. That strength is in me too. It took me 70 years to fully embrace it, but it's there. And it's in you too, whoever you are watching this. Maybe you're going through something similar right now. Maybe someone is trying to manipulate you, control you, take what's yours. Maybe you feel trapped or helpless or scared, but you're not helpless. You're stronger than you know. And it's never ever too late to take back your power. Before I close out this story, I want to ask you one more time if this story resonated with you, if it helped you, if it gave you courage or hope, or just entertained you for a while. Please hit that like button. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, because I share stories like this regularly. Stories about women who refuse to be pushed around. Leave me a comment. Tell me what you thought. Share your own experience if you feel comfortable. Or just let me know where you're watching from. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, Share this video with them. Your support means everything. You're not just watching a video. You're part of a community of strong, resilient women who lift each other up. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening to my story. My name is Dorothy Mae Henderson. I'm 72 years old, and I'm still living in my house on Maple Street, where I belong. And nobody is going to take that from me. This is my house, my rules, and that's exactly how it's going to stay. God bless you all, and remember, you're never too old to fight for what's yours.